You say that everybody's a change maker. And I'm curious because I think that we all resonate with that idea. But it's also a little counterintuitive because there's something in our nature as human beings that sort of fiercely resists change. So what exactly do you mean by when you say that everyone's a change maker?
Let me see if I can describe what happens across the human life cycle. Very young children in kindergarten learn by doing. And then young people have joy in learning, and they're open to it. And then we come to this hinge when people become adults, and they have grasped a body of knowledge and a set of rules. And under the rules of the game at the moment, they think that's their ticket. And they become aggressively defensive of that body of knowledge. They don't want it changed. They don't want other people coming into it. That's not God ordained. That's because we have built a structure for repetition. And we have had people in school with the idea you master a body of knowledge and associated rules, and then you just keep repeating that. That we have to change.
Is that why young people are idealistic and older people tend to lose some of that youthful idealism?
Well, many people lose it, but many don't, and there's nothing necessary. Some of the best entrepreneurs are in their 80s. They've never died. So what we want to see is a world where everybody, throughout the whole life cycle, has a joy in learning. They're not afraid of it. They're not afraid to see a problem or an opportunity. Now, if you're not a change maker, you don't want to see a problem. What are you going to do? Feel badly. So you just don't want to see it. But if we can make sure that every young person has mastered empathy, the foundational skills so you can work with others, teamwork, leadership not meaning telling people what to do, but how do you help people agree on a goal and then everyone be creative and achieve that huge force towards that goal, all for change. Now, once a young person has that, they will never be afraid. Because give me a problem. Thank you. I know what to do. I know how to work with other people. And this whole defensiveness about this is all a broken system that is collapsing.
When you say that, a broken system that's collapsing, what do you mean exactly?
The world has been organized around repetition. Institutions are for efficiency and repetition. Schooling is about mastering a body of knowledge that you'll repeat forever. Rate of change going up exponentially is breaking that system. It's being replaced by a world defined by the opposite of repetition, change. Change by one person affects the next group of people and so on. So change begets change. You got to have a very fluid team of teams because you're creating value is contributing to a change process which is always changing. So your teams have to be changing. That means a team means you got to have players. Everyone on a team is a player. And since so much of the game and increasing proportions are about change, you better be a change maker. So this is a much nicer world. Everyone is able to give. Everyone is powerful. So it's much more equal. You cannot have the problems outrun the solutions when everyone is a change maker. Then everyone is like a really smart white blood cell. There's a problem. We're going to take care of that. And people work together. So it's a much nicer system. We're just in the middle of a transition, and people don't see it clearly. The moment you see it, then you know how, as a parent, to help your children master these skills. The schools know, the policy people know, and the people running all the other institutions in society know you've got to build this fluid team of teams. And empower people, not tell them what to do and try and control them. And so,
you said that 2 or 3% of the world are basically the ones who are the ones, in charge of creating change now, but that number, that figure, is changing rapidly. What can we do as institutions and as leaders and as thoughtful, older people in helping the young generation to better be able to make these important changes you're talking about?
well, we can all of us, help everyone, not just young people, by helping everyone see that this change is happening now. Once you see that we're moving from repetition to change, and you've got to have these social skills, what young person, once they understand that, isn't going to give that a lot of weight in how they spend their time. Suddenly it becomes really important to be practicing being a change maker when you're 12 and 15. Anyone who's a parent, parents really want their children to succeed. Once parents understand that they've got to help their 6-year-olds stop and think how their younger brother felt when the sister hit the younger brother. When a parent asks a 15-year-old, when the 15-year-old says something is a mess, well, why don't you go and fix it? Who, me? Yes, and this is really important, and here's why. Those parents will do that. And the more they understand it, the more they're going to ask schools, how good are you at this? This is a process, all the pieces fit together. Similarly, if you're running a company, how can you possibly run an everyone a change maker company, which is the only way you're going to succeed in competition, if you don't shift from rules and controls to goals and empowerment? It's
A lot of companies and organizations are, they're speaking a good line about social entrepreneurship and about the importance of social ends and corporate social responsibility, this kind of thing. But there's also a strange way in which these words and these terms get co-opted, to sort of describe initiatives and work that's anything but socially entrepreneurial. Does that bother you? That your language has been sort of co-opted and used to describe something that's very different?
Well, it's sort of inevitable. Every local tobacconist says that, I'm an entrepreneur. But they're not Andrew Carnegie. They just aren't. Or Steve Jobs. But we're never going to prevent people from aspiring. And it's a lot better to have everyone wanting to be a social entrepreneur. Great. We need everyone to be a change maker. Every part of society. If you are a deacon of a church or you are running a dental lab, you have to change. The technology changes, there are new opportunities, there's new competition, faster and faster. So you need everyone to be a change maker.
But what you're saying is that we should embrace these terms because we should embrace the ideas behind them. But what happens when these ideas become hollowed out? That's what I'm asking. Or not hollowed out, but when these terms become used to describe something that's really more of the same. That's what I'm wondering.
It's a problem, I agree, but look where we're going to be in a couple of years. I don't know if it's a couple of years or 5 or 6 years. Once we break through the awareness gap and people say, society is making this change, and more people step up and are really making a difference, then it becomes very obvious. When you look at a Torkill in Denmark, well, his model of what you do with autistic people, recognize their special skills and find the work where they can excel, that changes the whole definition. Well, now that is moving out across the world quickly. It's coming here to Norway right now from Denmark. Governments.
Actually, he's telling me that he's just moving to the States now, and he's going to sort of roll this out in Delaware. So it's true what you're saying, that the ripple effects are spreading wider and wider. When you look at this network that you've created, what do you think you've started? I mean, as somebody who helped to sort of push this along from the very, very beginning, looking at it now, it has a life of its own. What do you think?
Well, when we got started, there wasn't even a word for this field. It tells you how, if you don't have a word, not much is going on. So, as you pointed out, now everyone wants to be a social entrepreneur. That's a lot better. Universities all over the world have to have courseware. Almost all the second-year students at Harvard Business School are in courses in this area. That's very new. So this is a historical force that is building. And it's building because the rate of change is going up exponentially. And as a result, the old institutions are crumbling, the systems are changing, and you have to have entrepreneurs. And you specifically have to have the gyroscope, social entrepreneurs who keep the whole system moving for the good of all. That's what defines social entrepreneur. Their motivation from deep within is to serve the whole, to make sure it's sustainable, fair, and efficient, all three. And who doesn't want to be able to express love and respect at the highest possible level? So of course people are going to aspire for this, and more people will do it, and that is exactly where we're going. And we have been privileged to be at the center of this amazing community of 3,000 of the world's best social entrepreneurs. Over half changed national policy within 5 years. And so of course we can see the patterns. And then of course, working together, we can help this whole tipping process move faster and more intelligently. That's all new. So we, like everyone else, are learning.
So this exponential curve that you're describing of change begetting change, happening faster and faster, that's probably happening within the field of social entrepreneurship as well, that the network is growing faster and faster, yes. And the bigger the effects, the more change it's. Where do you think the field will be in, say, 10 years?
We will be over the awareness tipping process. The world of repetition, those institutions will be fading very quickly. There will always be some repetition. We'll probably still have to wash the dishes unless one of those cute Sony robots comes along. But the value is increasingly going to be in change. And people will have these skills. It's so satisfying. There's nothing unstable about this. Once you know how to really understand and empathize, i.e. work with others, then you can do teamwork. Then you can lead in this very new type of way. This is very stable. The specific changes are always changing, but that's fine if you're a change maker. So this is a world that is psychologically very satisfying. It doesn't have the deep divisions of this world. It solves problems before they get out of hand. And we've taken away the roots of much of the prejudices between groups. So it'll be a much more peaceful world.
Do young people embrace this idea pretty easily, in your view?
Yes, but young people, like the rest of us, have the problem that the youth communities, most youth communities, are not changemaker communities now. So the first couple of young people in a middle or high school that have their own idea and they build a team, they're the pioneers. They're bringing this change. But once you get 5 in a school, and our experience is that if you're setting up a virtual radio station or a tutoring service or a music academy, whatever, probably 20 other kids working with you. So if you have 5 or 6 in a middle school, you have 100, 120 kids who are saying to their peers, come and join us. Use our service. This is really cool. And they're showing them, educating. Here's how you do it. And respecting kids who do this. And so you tip the youth culture. And then it's really easy. No one doesn't want to be a change maker. Once they taste it, it is so satisfying because you've become a giver. And we all know that being a giver means a longer life, a much healthier life, a much happier life.
Yeah. I wanted to just ask you, since we're here in Norway, we've both come a long way to participate in this conference, and so we probably both have an outsider's view on how things are a little different here in Norway, where the government has been a much bigger player than it is in, say, the United States, in terms of fostering, social goods, shall we say. How is social entrepreneurship different in this part of the world where there is so much of the government, the state support for these kinds of initiatives?
Well, first of all, as you know, Ashoka works all over the world, and there are many other parts of the world that have very big, very powerful governments. And everywhere, the social entrepreneur is, yes, it's a spur, but also an ally of government. Over half the Ashoka Fellows changed national policy, that means government, within 5 years of their launch. Well, if you're a government minister, don't you want to find sources of innovation in your field and encourage it? If you're recruiting people for government, where can you go that's better than experienced people from the citizen sector, and especially the entrepreneurs? They have the intellectual capital. They know where the field needs to go, and they know all the forces, very realistically. No one knows things in greater depth than the people whose job it is to cause structural social change, the social entrepreneur. So entrepreneurs can make you feel uncomfortable. They can show that they can do things a lot better, a lot cheaper, a lot faster. But that's a big benefit. If you're trying to actually help governments serve better, all right, you have to overcome the discomfort, but that's how you learn.
What is an organization or wealthy donors? What benefit do they have in supporting Ashoka Fellows, individuals, instead of giving money directly to a cause that they care about?
Well, let's assume that you care about health. You name the subject. If you make an investment here, this is what you get. First of all, you can count on over half the Ashoka Fellows you support will change national policy, and 3/4 the pattern in the field at the national level. 10 years of evaluations, you can count on that. Second, they will be recruiting thousands of local change makers in your field. That's the future grassroots of your field and the next generation of entrepreneurs. And that you can count on. Then, the third thing is that we are learning how to get all these entrepreneurs to work together. This is collaborative entrepreneurship. It's never been done before. And this is incredibly powerful. If we can figure out individual stories to patterns to where is this field going, and then what's the jiu-jitsu force, competition or whatever, and then we actually work together to make this happen. Well, we're doing this now, so we can't guarantee this, but it's very likely. Now, how could you possibly find a more powerful investment, especially since this is an investment that grows every year? The entrepreneurs, the policy impacts, and the collaborative entrepreneurship, every year they get more and more powerful.
Is this going to render some of the traditional kinds of philanthropy and foundation grant making, this kind of traditional giving that we've been doing, is it going to render some of it obsolete or irrelevant, do you think?
I certainly hope so. I mean, it's such a disappointing area. people, individual people, are doing their best, but it's structurally flawed. Foundations do not have to listen to their clients. And in any sector, if you don't listen to your clients, especially as things move faster and faster, you're falling behind. And this is not a criticism of the people, it's structural.
I understand.
Government, it's not perfect, but you have to listen to people, at least some of the time. Frequently the wrong people, the politically relevant, as versus the people who need the help. So we need a new financial system. It's crazy to have a financial system for a half of the world and a different for the business half. Those boundaries, the walls are coming down. We have to invent a whole set of new financial instruments. We're doing that. So the social investment bond is one example. We have demonstrated, Ashoka, that when you tear the wall down between business and society, instead of having a business system and a social system that don't talk to one another, you take the strength of each. So the citizen sector has lower costs, closer to the clients. The business sector has better access to capital and has certain efficiencies. You put those together, the hybrid business social value-added chain is much more powerful. Now, look at what that does economically. Every hybrid value chain that we've done so far, the citizen group gets a huge flow of money. So, houses for informal sector workers in the cities in India are not being built. 24.7 million missing housing units. Citizen sector is no good at real estate. They're low costs, etc. They know these communities. The builders can't deal with the vegetable seller who doesn't have a pay stub. Failure. So you put them together. The citizen sector sells, makes lending decisions, administers technical assistance collection. The builder builds, the finance company finances, the buildings get built. We've got 15,000 buildings in 14 months, $120 million of private capital. Now that is, when you do the math, 15,000 to 24 million, that's a $340 billion market. Before anyone else of the 700 million Indians that are still coming to the cities come, that is a complete market failure before. Well, now the citizen organizations are getting a markup on $340 billion. And this is an example of just how radically the system is going to change. And there's a wave of entrepreneurship in social finance now. So I hope it's going to change fast.
Do you think that, don't want to go there since we covered that already, but let me just ask you in closing, what misunderstanding of social entrepreneurship, let me restate that, what misunderstanding of social entrepreneurship bothers you the most?
I reframe the question a little bit. What's the biggest barrier we face?
Yeah,
Is that all right?
but it is partially a conceptual thing, isn't it, though? Because some people just cannot really get it. They don't get the idea behind it. They hear the word maybe entrepreneurship and have certain associations with that word, but maybe they don't understand the social end.
The biggest problem we have is that people don't yet see the change that's going on in the world. Once people understand that we are moving from repetition to change, that entrepreneurship is critical, and that social entrepreneurship for the good of all is the necessary thing that keeps everything going in the right direction, then the role of a social entrepreneur becomes obvious. So our problem always, the biggest problem is always getting across the new framework, overall and then area by area. Once parents understand that their children must master empathy, then they're on it, and they want the schools on it. Until they see the framework change, They're not on it. And so this is your work to help people, everyone, understand that here is this fundamental change, the biggest change that's come along, and it affects you in every aspect of your life. And here's how. Once people see it, and once they see their friends seeing it, and they help their friends see it, then our job becomes very easy because people can understand what it is, and they will be social entrepreneurs.